Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Casey and today I'm going to show you how to make a custom bath tray for your bathtub. Let's get into it. Before you begin, you'll need 3 measurements. You'll need from the wall to the outside of your bathtub, the lip of your bathtub that's closest to the wall, and from the inside to inside of your bathtub. After you have your measurements, you can go ahead and get your wood cut or cut it yourself. If you remember, my measurement from the wall to the outside of the tub was 29 inches. So I have 2 1x4s at 29 inches each. I got a smaller 1/4 inch piece of wood cut to smaller than the inside measurement of the bathtub. You'll also need 2 smaller pieces of wood, less than 8 inches in length, but more than like 3 or 4. I'm just using scrap 1x2s from the blanket ladder video. They'll be going underneath the 1x4s to support everything. You'll also need something to sand with, be that a power sander or sanding blocks. You'll also need some safety equipment. I have some safety goggles and a mask. You'll also need a tack cloth or a damp cloth to wipe all the sawdust off after sanding. To put everything together, you'll need some wood glue, some screws, a drill bit to fit those screws, and you can see the video that I posted last week about how to use a cordless drill. I give you a hack on finding the right size drill bit for your screws. And of course, you'll need a drill. You'll need something to finish off the bath tray with. If you want to paint it, you can. I'm choosing to stain mine. So I have pre-stained wood conditioner and my favorite stain lately, Provincial. And since this is going to be near a bathtub, you'll need to waterproof it. So you'll need some polyurethane. And the last thing you'll need is some disposable foam brushes. You'll need a separate one for each of the stain products you'll be using. So I have 3. The next thing you'll want to do is sand everything down. You want to make the wood as smooth as possible, first of all, to get all of like the splinters and stuff like that off of it. But you want to give the stain or paint a better surface to adhere to. For this project, I'm specifically going for a softer look, so I'm rounding out the edges on all of my pieces. I did this with the power sander and held my wood up while sanding, but I've since learned that the best way to do this is to lay your wood flat and slightly off the edge of your work table. Either way you do it, be very careful. If your sander slips, you'll get a gouge in your wood and possibly hurt yourself. I made a video a few weeks ago about how to use a palm sander, and I included a lot of sanding tips. So go ahead and check that out, or you can use the block sanders. After everything's nice and sanded, go ahead and lay out your 2 1x4s good side down. So whatever side you want to be facing up when you're looking at the bath tray, put that face down right now. So I have this weird little divot in mine, so I want that to be the bottom. So I'm going to put that face side up right now. You're going to place them maybe about 1 inch apart from each other and make sure they're nice and even the whole way down and at the ends. I'm actually going to use this as my spacer between them so I can keep it nice and even. You want to make sure Alright, future Casey here. Watching this back while editing, I realized I explained this terribly. So I'm coming back to explain a little bit better. This is where I imagine the wall to be. So this part is what will rest on the inside ledge of my tub. The measurement for the inside ledge of my tub was 1.25 inches. I added 2 inches to that. So I placed my block at about 3.25 inches from the edge. Looking back at it now, I think I should have only put it at like 1.5 inches to 2 inches, but hindsight is 20/20. Then to figure out where the other block needs to go, I added the measurement for the inside ledge of the tub to the measurement of the interior of the tub. So I want to know where 25¼ inches is from where my bath tray will hit my wall. So about here. Then I place the other block just inside that measurement. Like just inside. It needs to be placed so the side of the tray resting against the wall does not fall into the bathtub if your bath tray moves at all. I really hope this is coherent, and if it's not, let me know in the comments and I can help clarify more if I need to. Okay, on to the actual assembly. You want to mark the outside corners of these small pieces here, so just in case everything moves, and everything will move, so you can put everything back to where it's supposed to be. I'm going to show you a little hack now. Take your screw and your drill bit. This is my 1/8 inch drill bit and my 1¼ inch screw. I'm going to put my screw next to the drill bit and then put some painter's tape on it so I know that to not drill past that. While holding everything very tightly, we're going to drill into the wood. Just until we get to the edge of the painter's tape. And then change out your drill bit. You can check out my video from last week about how to use a cordless drill. I walk you through step by step on how to change out your drill bit. After you have your holes drilled, go ahead and put the screw into your small piece of wood only, just far enough for it to show out the other side. So before you continue screwing the small pieces into the 1x4s, you want to apply some wood glue. You just want to give it a little bit of extra hold. And then spread it around with your finger to give it a nice even coat. Make sure there's not too much on there. Then you can flip over the wood, line up the screws to the holes that you made in the 1x4 and screw all the way in. This is the part where you want to be very careful where you keep your boards even. And then repeat on the other side. You can see I've got quite a bit of wood glue seeping out the corner right here. So go ahead and take your rag and just wipe it off. Comes off fairly easily. I prefer to do this step before the wood glue dries, or else you're gonna have to go in there with like a 5-in-1 to like chisel it off or something. So go ahead and let it dry for at least an hour or so. I'm gonna wait overnight because it's getting dark out now. But then we're gonna come back and stain it or paint it to your liking. Okay, we're back actually a couple days later. I want to point out something that I didn't realize beforehand, but this space in between here, right here and right here, I actually put wood glue on. So you'll need to wipe that off before you stain it because stain won't attach to wood glue. Or you could just not put wood glue there and that will work just fine too. Since I am using softwoods, I'm going to use this pre-stain wood conditioner first. It will help the stain go on more evenly and not be blotchy when it dries. I'm going to make a short video series coming in the near future all about staining, and I'll go into more detail about stuff like this and how it works. Make sure you get into all the crevices and all the knots and divots and things like that on your wood. And make sure you get in the middle too. And of course, make sure you get the edges. After you've let it sit for a good 10-15 minutes, you can go ahead, if there is any excess, I don't really think there's much on here, but go ahead and wipe it off. After another, I'd say just like 5-10 minutes, just to let it dry down, you can start staining. And again, I'm going to be going into a lot more detail on staining and all of the different products, cleanup, everything like that in a future video in the next few weeks. You can let the stain sit on the wood for as long as you want, but just make sure that you don't let any of it dry on the wood before wiping it off. You need to wipe it off. The longer you let it sit, the darker it will be. And make sure you wipe in the direction of the grain. Like you see, I'm going sideways around these, but that's just to get to the excess underneath. But then afterwards, I am going to wipe in the direction of the grain. And this is the perfect example of how different woods take different stains and then let it dry for a good 4 hours or so. Okay, we're back the next day. Everything is dry. I do have a few like problem areas that I'm not going to worry about right now. They're dry, they're not tacky, nothing like that. Just some extra, I put a little bit too much in these little crevices here, but I am going to research it and try to figure out how to fix it for later for the stain video. So go ahead and subscribe if you want to figure out how to fix something like that, because I do too. But other than that, they look great. The next step is to add polyurethane clear coat to it. You want to be able to protect this from the water that it will be near, just in case it splashes it or anything like that. Now with polyurethane, you want to put a coat on one side and wipe it down, but then let it dry. You don't want, like with stain, I did the whole thing at first and then let the whole thing dry. You don't want to do that with polyurethane, because it will stick to something. So just apply a coat just like your stain. And I just realized I forgot gloves, so I need to make sure that I don't touch this at all. Same with the stain. You want to try and get into all these little nooks and crannies here, so you get even coverage over everything. After letting the polyurethane sit on the boards for only like 5 minutes, you don't need to let it sit for long, go ahead and wipe off the excess. This is the one where it's really important to wipe, because polyurethane is thicker and you don't want any of the brush strokes to show. And if you don't wipe, your brush strokes will show. After you have let everything dry overnight at least, take your sanding block or even just regular sandpaper. This is 220 grit. I would not recommend using anything less than 220 grit for this part of it. Sand down everything very lightly. The main part of this is just to get out some of the bubbles that are there, some of these drips, things like that. So you do not need to use elbow grease for this. Use your tack cloth to wipe it all down, get all your sawdust off, and then do another layer of polyurethane. And then of course you wipe it all down again. Remember, in the direction of the grain. I'm wiping down the edges too, just to make sure there aren't any drips down there.